Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the Blind Press YouTube channel and coffee stream number 336. It's Friday, which means it's Friday guest day, and today I have with me, live from his Corona bunker on the moon, Scribe Light.
Hello, it is I, Moon Man. Not that Moon Man, but lunatic, perhaps.
How are you doing today, Mr. Scribe Light?
Well, it's been a morning so far. I got up at 4:15 my time and been doing the worky thing ever since. And I'm in decent position to be done with the big stuff for the day. But so
Yay!
like I warned Blind before we went on, you might end up hearing some clicky clacky of my keyboard because I can't avoid a couple things, but I'll try to keep it mellow. But otherwise, I'm doing okay. It's Friday, the weekend is coming, and I don't have anything to worry myself over that. So how are you doing?
I'm good. I did a live stream right after Lords of the Night last night because I'm turning into the female version of Ranting Monkey and I can't stop
Uh-oh.
streaming.
Uh-oh, I know how that is.
So a blind another blind streamer put me onto this channel called Jubilee,
Okay.
where they take different, like they have a panel of people from a specific demographic,
Mm-hmm.
and they ask them questions
Okay.
to, I guess, try to demonstrate the diversity of that demographic.
Okay.
And they did a blind people episode.
Ah, okay. Were they all embracing their disability by running into doors?
They should have been.
Yeah.
Um, so it was a panel of 6 of the more popular blind content creators.
Hmm.
And at first, I was kind of interested because they all seemed to have the same answers to the questions, but different reasons for why they had those answers,
Okay.
which was interesting. But as the video went on, they all started saying the same things.
Hmm.
And it really became very monolithic.
Do you think it was sort of reaction slash social pressure to being in the room with people, and as everybody voiced their opinions, everybody was trying to go along to get along?
I'm not sure.
Hmm.
It was hard to tell. Um, it was hard to tell whether that was what was going on or if truly they were just that echo chambery.
Hmm.
Because it really felt like I was watching an echo chamber.
Sure.
And it was like there were some really outrageous things that were said, like blind people have to pay higher rent to live in more accessible neighborhoods, so that's why we're poor. And I'm like, no, we're poor because we can't get hired and we live on disability, but okay.
Yeah.
We don't really have the liberty to go neighborhood picking.
Yeah. Your options are what they are.
We go where we can afford to go,
Yeah.
like that's kind of ridiculous. So yeah, it was a reaction stream.
Hmm.
So that was interesting. Um, let's see, who have we got in chat here? We've got Costin and Becca Fairley and Tall
Mm-hmm.
Person and Dark Allisle, hello, and Gunfox and Mr. Adam. And a bunch of people who are probably working and can't type.
Working and lurking is what they're doing.
Yes. Hello to all of you.
Yep. Hope you're all having a good Friday.
Thank you for joining us. So I saw you did a TEDx talk with Mr. Alex the other day. That was
Yes, I
interesting.
did. I've been wanting to do one with him for quite a while, but his time zones and his schedule and everything else has kind of interrupted it. And after my my Ask Me Anything deal for my 4th anniversary, he was in the chat, and I was like, dude, we got to do a TEDx sometime. And Alex has moved quite a bit of ways from doing commentary on like social justice stuff and things in the last year or two. And he said something to the effect of, well, I'll only do it if you find one about something I can actually speak about, like ADHD. And I was kind of like, I wonder if TEDx has ever done something on ADHD. Do a quick search. Oh, yeah, they have. Okay. And I was like, here's something we can talk about. He's like, okay. And it didn't, and I believe you were there for at least part of it.
I saw part of it, yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't the most like outrageous or infuriating TEDx talk ever. It was kind of bland.
Yeah.
But I think the overall verdict was that she was trying to make certain points, but just went about it badly or not very completely. But as not so much as the TEDx itself, but as the overall show with Alex there, having him to supplement the information she was trying to get across. I think it was, I mean, I don't know anything about ADHD, like as a diagnosis or anything else. So listening to her try to explain it and then Alex supplement with like, well, no, that's not how this works as far as I know. And I think overall the show was far more informative in combination than the TEDx was by itself. So yeah, not one of my most, let's say, Scribe loses his brain because somebody's saying something stupid kind of streams. But I found it much more beneficial, and it was a lot more fun too, just because I don't get to hang out with Alex very often anymore because of everything. And like I said, he's literally the first person who ever brought me onto YouTube, so I have a lot to thank him for.
Hello, a new person. Robert Lepine says, hello, Scribe and Blind Press.
Robert Lepine, I've seen you before. You seem familiar to me.
So yeah, no, I thought it was very insightful. The part that I saw, because I had been picking up my oldest from school.
Mm-hmm.
And I came back and I saw that you had Alex on, and I also found it very educational to listen to Alex's explanations, because it sounded, I even said in chat, are we witnessing her having like an ADHD moment on stage? Because like it was like she was having ideas but not able to express them.
Yeah, there was a sense that at certain points her energy got the better of her, I suppose, and she floated here and there.
Yeah.
Which again, like given the circumstances, it wasn't one of those TEDx's where I could sort of at least intellectually make fun of the person for being unorganized or something. It's like, well, the whole subject of this talk is the fact that she has this condition, etc. So yeah, it was much more sedate in that way. And I think, like I said, I think Alex and I both agreed she did her best.
Yeah.
In some places, though, her examples, I mean, she obviously had this planned out. It wasn't that she was like ad-libbing the whole thing, but her how she backed up her points or how she was trying to describe to an audience that might not understand how ADHD works wasn't very effective. And again, like I said, I can empathize with that because, as I said on the stream, I've had any number of conversations with people who don't deal with chronic depression or have never dealt with like uncontrollable anxiety or something, and trying to explain to someone like what your version of the color green looks like or something. It just, it's almost an uphill battle. You're not going to win. The best I can describe to somebody is that an anxiety attack is like an emotional migraine. That's about as close as I can get to making it simple for somebody who doesn't know. But of course, that doesn't even encapsulate what it is to actually do it.
That's actually a really good analogy.
Well, yeah, and Alex's was very simple and very elegant to me. It's like, imagine having 17 Chrome tabs open. One of them has a video playing music and you can't find it.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so having all this stuff in front of you and there's something else going on the side. So that's, and like I say, as far as an analogy went, that probably did a better job of sort of telling me, someone doesn't know anything about it really, what it must be like than the 15-minute presentation that she was giving and the points that she made. Yeah. But then again, that just lends itself to how much more effective I think having him there and the wholeness of watching the TEDx with him was for explaining the deal.
I think it was a good stream.
Yeah.
It was very well done. You Alex is really fun to stream with.
Yeah.
I've streamed with him a couple of times. He's really fun to stream with.
Yeah, he's a great guy. And man, the stuff he's going through right now,
Yeah.
it's just like somebody decided to play a cosmic joke on him for no good reason. It's like, fuck.
It's like, I don't know what the hell it is with 2020.
Yeah, tell me about it.
But it's like everyone gets a shitty hand this year. It's like you get, like with Alex, you get all this health stuff, and everybody has to deal with the coronavirus, and
I'm really hoping that in next year and in the coming years there's some kind of karmic rebalancing act, and we have a period of just relative peace, prosperity, and kindness washing over the world. Somehow, I doubt it because I'm still a cynic, but
Yeah.
I hope springs eternal.
You can't help but hope, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, try. A lot of people, I can understand why things seem very bleak right now and are very bleak for a lot of people. But
Yeah.
like I say, the necessary ingredient to be a true cynic is hope, and also nostalgia. Probably.
Yeah.
But no, it's been a rough year for a lot of people. I'm very fortunate that I can work from home, and that thus far, knock wood, I haven't gotten ill in that way. Although I've had my little scares here and there. So
it's and it's we're dealing with we've got an educational assistant at my son's school.
Mm-hmm.
Who keeps giving him the masks that go like that loop around your ears.
Sure. We
bought a bunch of Gator style masks, the ones that you kind of pull down over your head.
Right.
He's got 4 of them to himself.
Jeez.
So he can interchange them.
Mm-hmm.
But he's been sent home with like 5 masks. That first of all, he doesn't need, and it's confusing him, right? Because we're telling him, these are the better masks, because they don't pull on your ears, they don't like those loops, they're so uncomfortable. And it's harder they're thicker, so it's harder to breathe in them. They're hotter. And he likes them more. Like our son likes the ones that we have more. So this teacher is confusing the crap out of him. And so I had to email his main teacher and go, what the hell's going on? Why does he keep coming home with these masks that he doesn't need?
Right.
And apparently it's a mother has been making them and giving them to the school.
Okay.
But I'm like, but I'm going to have to tell his teacher, listen, please don't let the EAs give him those, because A, save them for the students who don't have them, who don't have masks.
Sure.
And B, it's confusing him. It's because they have to wear a face mask all day at school.
Right. Yeah, and I can't. I mean, try with all the craziness going on, and all the things people do that seem, sort of mother henish. I try to be sympathetic to a certain extent and say, well, they're concerned for people's health, which makes sense. And then there's also the sense of probably risk of liability if they don't take action or seem like they were somehow negligent.
Yeah.
So there's that paranoia there too. So I get it, but yeah, there comes a certain point where it's like, okay, do you want me to come to school wrapped up in a plastic bubble suit? Because I might as well, with everybody being overcautious. But it's a tough thing. And that's one of the frustrations in covering this whole year and reading the news and all the reports and everything, is that on the one hand, I am not oblivious to the fact that there is a health risk going on, that people have been dying, that there is, and even if you're not dying, there's great disruption to your life that can happen if you do get this, and it does hit you particularly hard. Some people are very susceptible to it while others aren't at all.
Yeah.
It's really a gamble. At the same time, though, we get such conflicting information on exactly how severe it is, the number of infections and deaths as being categorized correctly, and on and on. I mean, I can't count how many times I've been told, like, well, we have presumed cases, and so we're going to count them in the official numbers.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, guys, you're not doing anybody any favors by telling us that we have to suspect the truth of what you're telling us, especially when people are having to literally shut down their lives, their businesses, God knows what else, on your best guess. And then I start thinking about, what if, and I'm not pushing a conspiracy theory, I'm just thinking hypothetically, what if it turns out, like 6 months from now or something, after all the data's come in and they've been able to assess everything, that it wasn't nearly as bad as they kept saying it was? Would they, if they had known that in the middle of this, would they have any ability to tell us without causing an absolute blowback of insanity? Like, even if they knew now, after all this stuff has been set up and all these things shut down, would it be at all safe to say, we got this completely wrong, guys?
I don't think it would, because everybody is so angry as it is.
Yeah.
Because of not just the lockdowns, but because of all of the social unrest that has been going on.
Yeah.
I think it would just be one more nail in the coffin for the authority.
Yeah, and that's something.
In power.
Yeah, and it's like, it's one of those balancing acts where it's like, okay, you obviously have to look out for the public good.
Yeah.
There is at least some kind of threat out there. How far do you go to protect people from that threat in the public health? How far can you take it before you start violating people's rights? And of course, we've seen that back and forth in different states here in the U.S. And I mean, I don't have an answer. I don't know. Yeah. I can't blame, like, everybody's jumping on the Trump administration. You knew then, and you knew this then, and everything else. Like, we didn't know anything in those first couple of months. I was getting conflicting messages from every side of the aisle, and I can understand that. I mean, you don't know. You do your best guess, and you take things as you come. You listen to the advice that you get, but you don't know for sure, and you don't want to pull the trigger on something that's going to cause massive chaos unless you're absolutely sure. And we weren't sure of anything in those first couple of months. So everybody doing their hindsight is 2020, no pun intended, is fine, but I don't see it as an indictment necessarily of people being a complete failure, depending on the circumstances.
Oh, Pincalo sent you a picture of the gator in your DMs.
Oh, gotcha. Let's see here.
It's just like that little bandana type thing that
now see, that's a superhero mask. I could get behind that, except that I don't have one myself. I want a Punisher one. Do they make those in Punisher?
I think they did.
I want to find out if they got one in Punisher. My sister got me a Punisher loop over the ears mask as a gift.
Oh, nice.
And so I don't go out by myself wearing it very often, on the off chance someone gets the wrong idea. I usually wear it with them when I'm hanging out with my sister or my mom or something, to make sure people are like, no, I'm not actually a bad guy. The funniest thing was the first time that I wore it and I went to the grocery store. I'm just like walking through the grocery store, and this guy who looks like this grizzled, just old man.
Yeah.
Right? He's walking towards me from the other direction. He's got one of the regular medical blue masks on, and he looks over at me. And then he looks away, and then he mumbles under his breath as he passes me. He says, "The one superhero who doesn't wear a mask." And I was like, that's fucking awesome, dude. That guy knows his shit, and he's also like all grouchy and everything. It was great. I was like, yeah,
that's amazing. Right. I love that.
I know. It was wonderful. It was just so bizarre and just out of there. But it was like, the one guy doesn't wear a mask, and I'm wearing them. Sorry, dude. I don't know what to tell you.
That's great. I think that's hilarious.
Yeah, I guess I've been. He would have preferred it if I was wearing a Spider-Man deal or something else, but oh well.
Yeah, we have a moon one on our merch store. A
Ooh,
moon
a
mask.
moon. Ah, yes, the wonderment of the moon and the lack of a moon base.
Yes. Hello, Sir Adamantine.
Sir Adamantine's House of Celestial Sins. You know about Sir Adamantine's House of Celestial Sins, don't you?
Oh, of course.
Yes, yes. There's quite the lore that's been built up about Crater Valley and the moon base over the
Yes.
years, and yeah, Sir Adamantine's House of Celestial Sins was one of the first parts of Moon Poon.
Moon Poon.
Moon Poon.
That's.
I completely forgotten about that until the 4-year thing came up, and I started thinking about stuff from the past. And yeah, this whole I was thinking the other day, I've had a hard time lately finding something outside of YouTube to do creatively, and I've been trying to write a bit, as anybody who's seen me attempt it on my non-author dark channel. And I keep thinking I should just write some silly sci-fi story based on Moonbase and all the lore surrounding there. Just
You
something
should.
goofy, and just like the adventures of Space Marshal Dirk McGuffin policing Moonbase and Crater Valley. Yeah.
A moon mask? I need it, says Zach Lump. Yeah, it's a Taikos Crater moon mask. It's Pincalo was able to take a picture of the moon through his telescope over the summer.
Neat.
And he put it on a Gator style mask on our merch store, and there's also, I think it's a 10 by 10 just framed picture that's up there as well. But it's a Taikos Crater Earth's Moon Gator is what it's called.
Taikos Crater Earth's Moon Gator. That's almost like poetry right there.
Yep. Whom should I make Minister of the Moon when I get around to declaring myself the Terran Emperor?
Well, yeah, Emperor.
Costin.
Well, I see. Yeah, Emperor. So I figure. So what it'll be is that you got the Moon Base and Crater Valley and the Space Marshal and the Bordello, the House of Celestial Sins. There's other things on there too, and then the Earth is going to be ruled obviously by Emperor W.R. Costin. And there'll be like this sort of, I don't know, Cold War between the Earth and the Moon. Like the Moon doesn't really contact the Earth that much anymore, except for like real necessity things. And so yeah, the Moon is going to be like the Wild West. If you had to like do the analogy of it, it's like the Moon is like Deadwood, and the Earth is sort of like the federal government somewhere off in the distance, who's always like poking at it, but they can't do much because we're so far away and on our own. Yeah.
Oh, Pincalo said he could put a base on the moon mask for you if you wanted it.
Oh, well, you do whatever you want. It's your mask. That's fine. I've only got one moon type thing on my merchandise store, which I almost never plug because I don't really think about it that much. And it just says moon base. Well, it's got the moon and then the word base right next to it, so it's moon base. But,
and then Pincalo says, and then tonight, if it's clear, I might be able to go out and get a shot of Mars. It's in the closest it's been in 15 years. Oh yeah, that's right, it is.
I'm sure that lines up with some kind of doomsday prophecy somewhere that'll make sense for 2020. Yeah, when the god of war is in the 5th house of the lunar I'm like, and now yeah.
Hades is coming for us.
That's right. W.R. Costin says, "I see how it is, Scribe. Yeah, you see how it is. I make you Emperor of Earth, and it's like now you're ticked off. Sorry, don't know what to tell you. I can't do much better than make you Emperor of Earth.
Hey, Emperor of Earth is pretty cool.
I don't know. Would you want that job? I don't know if I'd want that job.
You could delegate.
I guess, but then you don't want to delegate too much. You have to split things up a lot to make sure that nobody can get one up over on you.
True. Mars attacks, says Constant.
Oh man, I was so when the first preview for Independence Day came out, and this is before really the internet or any ability to tell what the hell it was, and I didn't know any better because I had gotten into they just reprinted the original card series of Mars Attacks, the collectible card series from like the 60s or whatever. And I'd gotten really into it. I thought these really goofy looking, terrible space monsters, and they were doing these terrible things. And I was like, really was like, yeah, this is cool. And then I saw the preview for Independence Day, and I saw these giant saucers coming over America. I was like, oh, is that a Mars Attacks movie? Because I heard they were going to make a Mars Attacks movie somewhere. And then it was like ID4. And I'm like, what the hell is an ID4? And then I got disappointed because then the Mars Attacks movie was a goofy Tim Burton thing. I know a lot of people like the Mars Attacks movie. I didn't because it turned into a comedy. Because if you look at the Mars Attacks collectible cards, it was the horrors of war presented in kind of a weird, goofy sci-fi fashion. Because the actual cards depict gruesome stuff like atrocities of war, except you didn't have Nazis doing it. You had these big brain looking alien deals.
Yeah.
Which could be very terrifying depending on how you did them. And then the Tim Burton thing just made them into cartoon characters. And I was like, eh. So I've always kind of in the back of my mind hoped that someday they'd make an actual space horror movie with the Mars Attacks license. That's never happened. So one can only dream.
Yeah. What is your favorite movie other than the Hunt for Red October? Like, do you have a second favorite?
I mean the Red October running gag. It really depends on the genre. I grew up with movies. I basically lived in my local video store. I can't tell you how many movies I've seen and how much ridiculous movie trivia I've got stuck up in my head. Some other favorite movies, like, and they go back. They run the gamut over time because it's just things that I've seen. Like for noir, you can't get much better than The Third Man, which is a classic. Joseph Cotten. Suddenly forget the guy's name, even though he was like, Orson Welles. Why do I forget Orson Welles' name for a second there? I don't know. Orson Welles. Graham Greene directed it. I mean, as far as noir goes, you can't get much better than that. For neo-noir, you probably want to go with Memento, Christopher Nolan's Memento, which is
excellent. Made me so sad.
It's a very sad movie. It's got a very simple gimmick to it as far as it's just like very creative editing to tell the story, telling it backwards the way he did. And it's great. But gritty crime noir stuff like that really gets me.
Yeah.
As far as like horror / sci-fi, John Carpenter's The Thing is probably still excellent. It's all great except for that last bit at the end where they use stop motion rather than like models or practical effects, really, and it just doesn't look right. But other than that, I mean, the whole thing is great and has great implications for stuff. Action movies, obviously, Die Hard. Straight up action movies, probably something like Shoot 'Em Up with Clive Owen. Thrillers. Oh God, there's so many. Oh God, I don't know. I mean, what one that doesn't get talked about enough anymore, I don't think, is called Raising Cain, which was a
I've heard of that movie.
Yeah, it stars John Lithgow and directed by Brian De Palma. And I mean, the twist, so to speak, is pretty easy to see in the movie as you go along, and I think it's fairly well telegraphed. And the thing with John Lithgow is he's one of those actors who he's a really great actor. He can be a really great dramatic actor. The problem is that I'd seen him in so many goofy comedy things that sometimes it's difficult to take him seriously in a real serious role. Because unlike, let's say, Robin Williams. Okay, Robin Williams has always been known for his comedy, right?
Yeah.
So when he took a dramatic turn, it was always a little bit different, like Dead Poets Society. It was a more serious role, but he was still being a little bit Robin Williams. There's still some humor in there and everything.
Fisher King.
The Fisher King, too. Yeah, I mean, he was a serious role about a very troubled man, obviously, but there was still Robin Williams doing his goofy, spastic sort of self. Yeah. So you expect that from Robin Williams. You can kind of see him ride the line between absolute comedy and dramedy. But then you see him do something like 1 Hour Photo, where there's no comedy. There's nothing funny. He's playing everything straight, and it's creepy as hell. And so you can that I think when an actor who is known for one thing completely and then goes the completely opposite direction, there's more of a strike to your conscience then when you see something like that. With John Lithgow, I'd seen him in funny things like Buckaroo Banzai Beyond the Eighth Dimension kind of thing, and also in serious things like real serious movies. And so when you go back and forth like that, it's difficult to sort of know if you're seeing a comedy performance from this guy or a straight dramatic performance, and it kind of steals a little bit from the kick of a movie like that. Even though it's a great movie, the only flaw I'd see is my sort of image of John Lithgow as an actor watching it. He overcomes it most of the time, but there's always that moment where it's like, I'm seeing the guy from Third Rock from the Sun.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like,
or the what's that movie? What's the movie where the family befriends this guy?
Harry and the Hendersons.
Harry and the Hendersons. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Is that because when I was a kid and I saw Raising Cain, he's the dad in Harry and the Hendersons. Is like, so, and it's me. That's my problem. The movie's great, but it's my problem that I sometimes can't distinguish one from the other. It also depends on the actor. Like, is this an actor that, like Will Smith, for example? These days, when you see a movie with Will Smith in it, it's basically Will Smith in a movie. It's rarely Will Smith playing a role like he's doing somebody else. It's just Will Smith being Will Smith.
Yeah.
Some actors, they're just them all the time. Whereas you see an actor like Ben Foster, who is not a marquee name in most places. He's an excellent actor, but he's a chameleon. Like role to role, he becomes that character. In some cases, you don't even know it's him really unless you're looking hard enough, because he's one of those real serious actors, kind of like that's something. I'm terrible with names when I want to remember them. The guy from There Will Be Blood.
Oh shit!
And Lincoln, and I've just suddenly forgotten his name because But anyway, that guy whose name should be right at the front of my mind. He always, like, from role to role. It's not a movie where he's playing himself. He's playing the character. He's playing the role.
Yes.
And so you really can tell those actors apart. It's like, this is a Will Smith movie versus this is Lincoln.
Yeah. When I heard Will Smith was going to be Deadshot in Suicide Squad, I was like, well.
Yeah,
that's gonna be Will Smith takes over the whole movie.
Moonbase Security says Daniel Day-Lewis. Yes, that's the actor I was thinking of. Speaking of Suicide Squad, amazingly enough, that is the theme for tonight's Lords of the Night that I've cooked up for the thumbnail. And you're in there. Yeah, your avatar's in there. I think I made you the dual wielding sword assassin Japanese chick. But I haven't seen Suicide Squad. I've seen plenty of clips of it. I guess they had to have some big name in that movie to help carry it. And Will Smith is, of course, the marquee name. The sequel they're making looks just absolutely bananas. But then they got and suddenly James Gunn, for the director of Guardians of the Galaxy, which is funny because the whole ad campaign for Suicide Squad was changed because of the popularity of Guardians of the Galaxy. They wanted to make it more like a Guardians of the Galaxy, so they reshot a bunch of stuff and added humor and tried to make it like that. And then they hired the guy who actually did it to make the movie they probably should have made in the first place.
Well, in the focus group that they... oh, no, that's a different movie. I was going to say the focus... because I know somebody that worked on Suicide Squad in the props area.
Yeah.
And he said it was going to be a really good movie, and then they rewrote the whole goddamn thing.
Well, that's what is so frustrating sometimes about seeing movies that you hear about all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes, where the studio takes over, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, look, you hired this director purportedly, or this writer, whichever, both, one or the other, because they have a vision.
Yes.
And you want to provide them the opportunity to create that vision. So either you trust the director you're hiring or you don't. And if you don't, why bother hiring a big name director or a director with some kind of pedigree if you're just going to come in and change everything at the last minute because you're scared the audience is not going to get it or something?
Yeah.
Take a risk. Let the person do the job that you hired them for. But at the same time, again, I always have to do this because I'm not just a one-track mind on this. There's a great documentary / movie called Lost in La Mancha. And if you haven't seen this, I recommend it to anybody who's interested in movies and the movie making process. It's a story of Terry Gilliam and his attempt to make a Don Quixote movie starring Johnny Depp. And it's all behind the scenes about the pre-production and the production and everything else. I don't want to spoil it for you, except that you probably know that Terry Gilliam's Don Quixote movie didn't come out until a couple of years ago, and this documentary is at least 10 years old now. But they go through so many details of exactly like, here's the filmmaker, and he has this vision. They show us the storyboards and what he wants to do and his test footage and all this stuff. And then you see the interactions he has to have with the investors and the studio and finding funding, all the other things that aren't very romantic about the movie making process, but have to be considerations because you can't make a movie without them. And so every time that I see something like this, and I see, oh God, Suicide Squad, if they just let the director do his bit and tell the story he wanted to tell, even if it was dark and not funny or whatever, people would have appreciated it for being pure. And then you think of the considerations of, well, if the audience doesn't go to see this, then we don't get the money back, and our DC universe is really sucking right now, so we have to try to pump it up. People really like Guardians of the Galaxy. It's like, yeah, but Guardians of the Galaxy is a completely different atmosphere. You've got Suicide Squad, for God's sake. It's not Guardians of the Squad. It's Suicide Squad. People going into this are expecting something a little grim and darker. And you've already set that up with your Superman movie, so why try to change it now? Anyway.
Pincalo says, we are kind of giving our contact away a little bit, but another movie that got killed was It. Yeah.
I haven't seen it or the sequel. I didn't really have any interest because
it had such good potential. Like the guy that played Pennywise was good.
Mm-hmm.
He was good. I can't remember his name now off the top. I think his name was George something.
Oh, I'm terrible.
I can't remember.
It's Skarsgård or something.
Yes.
Skarsgård.
That's exactly what that is. Skarsgård.
Yeah.
Thank you.
See, like I said, my memory on things is usually pretty good if I'm not having to actually think of something and then I suddenly forget it all.
But yeah, that was the movie that had a focus group that was like, this is too dark. It's like, it's it. Have you read the book?
Yeah, I mean,
oh my God.
My image of it is always going to be Tim Curry and forever. Yeah. And even though if you watch that movie now, it's so TV movie, it can't really help itself. At the same time, when I was a kid, that scared the absolute living shit out of me. Just the part where it's like he just when he's in the sewer at the beginning and he leans up towards the camera with those big yellow nasty teeth. He's like, I was like, that image is like ingrained in my brain. You don't need. This is what I'll never understand. You don't need gratuitous gore and blood and everything else to have an indelible, horrific image in somebody's head for the rest of their lives. And I'm always dumbfounded how movie after movie keeps being churned out. I'll be walking in the grocery store and there'll be one of those red box deals and there'll be like 20 movies on there with big name actors that I've never heard of before because they're just pumping out garbage after garbage. And I think, that movie there, what's its running time? 2 hours. I bet you dollars to donuts that random movie I see on Redbox is absolute garbage with the amount of time it had to tell a story. And then you look at something like The Godfather. Okay. Same running time, same sort of real estate within which to tell a story. And it tells a story that is epic and memorable and goes down through the ages and is praised and has fantastic performances, tells a great story, builds an entire world. And then you watch something like Happy Death Day, and it's like, what? I mean, it's cotton candy type entertainment. But imagine what someone could have done with that same amount of budget and time and effort that they just didn't. And then you look at The Godfather. It's like, oh yeah, well, The Godfather. You can tell a great story without a big budget. That's the thing that people don't seem to understand. Memento. You tell a great story. It's not a big budget movie.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it feels like such a waste that there's all this creativity and all this money being spent on just garbage. And I suppose, everybody's got to be given a chance to make the movie they want to make, and some things that's more for profit and everything else. I don't know. It's just, I see all the money being wasted on just nonsense projects are being thrown at things that don't deserve that kind of backing, and then you get like really good projects like, oh god, like Terry Gilliam's Don Quixote.
Mm.
Now, admittedly, that production was cursed, but all the same, yeah. Anyway,
Asian Hippie says, in the first part, all the scary parts were telegraphed by the soundtrack. Never bothered with part 2. Yep.
yeah, that was
Yep.
one of the complaints I saw is that they always they the filmmakers and or the studios don't seem to trust the audience to be at least somewhat intelligent. It's like, okay, now we're going to tell you a scary thing's going to happen because we're going to have these clashing tambourines over and over. Like,
Yeah.
just have it scare you. Like, I remember in the first Alien movie, there's almost no music at certain points. There's just the hiss of the alien in the background somewhere, or you just see the movement behind the character out of focus, and it builds that up. You don't need to tell me that I'm supposed to be scared now. It's like, oh, okay, thanks.
Thank you, Johnny Hellcut. He says, it's almost like that episode of The Critic where he writes a script and they throw it out and give him a new script is a thing. Yeah.
Buy my book. Buy my book. Yeah. The Critic was so, I think it's underappreciated just for how much basic insight into the entertainment business that it provided back then that is still rings true today, especially when some of it's fake. I bet you, I don't remember them all, but there were fake movie previews in that show that have probably been turned in some way into real movies at this point, just because they've run out of ideas. It's so, anyway.
Sir Adamenton says, Alien is one of the best movies ever. You know, I still have to watch the first Alien. I've seen Aliens.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen Resurrection.
Don't.
And I
Yeah.
don't want to.
So the
Prometheus was terrible.
Prometheus really is an acquired taste. Everybody I talk to, they either hate it or love it. I'm kind of one of the rare people that's kind of like, it was okay all by itself, but I thought it was overblown. Too many characters. The first Alien movie is a great isolation survival horror movie. Aliens is a great action movie. I don't think Aliens is nearly as good overall a film as the first Alien. It's entertaining, but it's basically the same Alien movie, just pumped up with more aliens and more action.
Yeah.
I think it was Red Letter Media. They actually broke down in their commentary of the first Alien movie, like just how Aliens is the exact same movie as Alien, just with more music and more explosions, because all the same story beats occur almost at exactly the same point in the movie. It's just upped a bit. It's just James Cameron just like turned up the adrenaline a bit.
Yeah.
And it just shows that setting and that set of circumstances can fit into different genres. And then they tried to bring it back with Alien 3, where it kind of went back to the first movie, where you have a very isolated situation. You have one alien, everybody's being chased, except now it's on a prison planet with all these other murderers and rapists and everything. And she's got to live amongst them or whatever. Mm-hmm. And the funniest line from Alien 3, if you guys have never seen Alien 3, I like it. It's not obviously the best in the movie. And it did cap off the trilogy. It basically said, this is it. This is Ripley's story done. And then they brought her back to life, of course. The best line in that movie is at one point, one of the characters in the movie is that there's this dog that's sort of a pet of the little prison colony. He's just kind of like a wandering pet. And at one point, we've seen that the dog has been attacked by a facehugger. We, the audience, have seen that.
Yes.
And then after the facehugger has died off and gone away or whatever, the dog runs back all happy and everything because it doesn't know any better to its best friend or its master or whatever. And he's got these big scratches, scars on his face where the little facehugger's legs were, right?
Yeah.
Now, you got to remember, okay, we've just seen and been told throughout the course of the movie to this point, we are on a prison planet, isolated from the rest of the universe, basically, with the worst of the worst, rapists, murderers, thieves, and so on, everything.
Yeah.
And this guy is cleaning a tunnel or something, and the dog walks up panting at him, and he looks at the dog, and he's like freaked out. He's like, who did this to you? And he sort of muses to himself, who would do this to a dog? And I'm like, it's the funniest line in the whole thing, because, it's like, you got murderers and rapists, but at the same time, a dog is off limits, right?
Yeah.
And he's just like, who would do, of all the people that you know on this planet that are terrible people, you can't think of anybody who do this to a dog, which really says something about humanity, doesn't it?
Isn't it? It's so interesting. Like when you look at and it's true, like you look at prisons and everyone in there is like fuck people, right?
Yep.
But you give them an animal and most of them, some of them are insane and psychopathic and
Sure.
whatever. But most people will be like, "Oh my god, it's a puppy."
Yeah.
You know, it's just
Yeah, you see those documentaries where they have programs where you have to raise a dog for like, well, I mean, a seeing eye dog or
Yeah.
an assistance dog or something, and you just see these absolute transformations in the prisoners as they actually have to connect with and care for another living thing. On the same side, you have all these terrible, terrible people in a prison, and then you find out you got one guy on the other end of the table who is in prison because he hurt children or something. Like that person's out the door, right?
Yeah.
There are some common denominators that sort of surpass even the worst parts of us. And hurting animals, especially cats and dogs, is probably the height of the worst thing you can do, seemingly. Which is weird because when you think about it, it's like, okay, hurting a dog, hurting a person.
Do you think it's because we as people, like as a species, domesticated dogs and cats so early that they've become part of like just this thing that
I think like with children, it's difficult for most civilized people not to see animals and children as pure innocents.
Yeah.
Like a grown-up human, because we know ourselves as grown-up people that we're not perfect, we're flawed. That obviously doesn't mean that, you know, hurting a person is okay, but I think it diminishes some sense of empathy towards an adult person versus a dog or a cat or a child who obviously has nothing you could hold against them as some kind of, you know, living sin, let's say.
Yeah.
Like there's no cause at all. You can't look at a dog and think that, barring it attacking somebody or you're defending something, that dog has done anything to deserve being harmed, or a cat, and certainly not a child. But with an adult human being or someone older, we empathize both with the person doing it and with the person who's the victim of it, because we can understand, or at least we can imagine, other factors involved that go beyond simple, this person's innocent and couldn't defend themselves. Yeah. I think that's the separation. Like I say, it doesn't reduce harm towards another person in a moral sense, but just in an empathetic sense, there's a difference between a grown person and something that you consider to be, and is considered to be, completely innocent of fault.
The Batman says it's because most of us, even the worst of us, draw a line at harming the very helpless.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's something that you can look at and not have any doubt whatsoever that this creature, this child, whatever, is helpless, is harmless, can't defend themselves against a full-grown human being. Yeah, you can't really look past that unless you're an absolute psychopath or something.
Asian Hippie says in some countries, cats and dogs are just another source of meat.
That is true too.
Yep.
That is true too.
But I'm sure in those cultures there is a different animal that people wouldn't consider harming. Like there's got to be in a different, like for you know, in the Hindu religion, you know, it's the cows, right?
Yep.
You don't harm cows. It's the animal may vary from culture to culture, but there seems to be a universal there seems to be a universal moral thing against harming animals.
Yeah. And then you get into like bullfights and things, and it's like, oh, well.
Yeah.
Now you have an animal that could conceivably hurt other people, but the only reason it's going to be hurting anybody is because you're goading it into doing so.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, the Matadors get what they deserve in that fucking
Yeah,
sport.
I see those, and the fans in the crowd that like get accident, like if the bull jumps up into the stands or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel sorry for the person in the stands, obviously, but yeah, when it comes to the Matadors or the people like throwing darts into the bull or something, like and maybe that's part of the thrill of it, is that you're cheering for the Matador, but you're also kind of like, get 'em bull.
Yeah, I
But of course,
guess.
yeah, but that situation wouldn't be there in the first place if they weren't like made to be there. So yeah.
Yeah. Poverty eats pets. I guess that's true, Dectran.
Yeah, desperation does weird things to people.
Did you ever get into watching Mindhunter?
I did. I watched both seasons. Like, well, I mean, as soon as they were out,
Yeah.
I've been fascinated by, like so many other people, been fascinated by crime and serial killers for most of my life. And it was kind of gratifying that before they really told you, I knew who the quote unquote secret serial killer was that they kept cutting
Yeah.
back to. Before they said, I was just like, oh, I know who that is. I thought the quality of the show kind of took a dip by the second season. Because in the first season, like, it was excellent. I mean, the acting, the writing, the characterizations, just treating the audience with a certain level of respect was really good.
Yeah.
But there was one part of season 2 that I thought was like, are you kidding me? So our I forget what her name was, but she's played by Anna Tovar or whatever.
Wendy, Dr. Carr.
Dr.
Wendy
Carr. Yeah. So
Carr.
yeah, Wendy Carr. So Dr. Carr, in the second season, there's this scene where they're in a bar, and it's pretty heavily indicated that Dr. Carr is a lesbian.
Yes.
Okay. But it wasn't enough that we could just see her interacting with the bartender. It was that the bartender's being hit on by a bunch of guys, and I think I might be quoting directly. She says, I don't swing that way, boys."
Yeah, in the 70s, you wouldn't say that.
Well, you wouldn't say it that way, but even in the scope of the show and the quality of the storytelling prior to that, it was tell, not show. Whereas season 1 had been almost all show and not a whole lot of tell.
Yeah.
Even though there was plenty of exposition going on there, it was organic. It felt natural because you had these characters who were intellectuals, and like they were, starting out in a field that didn't really exist at the FBI at that time, and so the explanations and the exposition made sense. In that instance, it's a very small thing, and I know it's not the all-encompassing part of the season, but it lent itself to me to think, okay, you've lost me a little bit. You're not treating the audience with a certain level of respect, because I can see by her looking at the bartender that she's interested in the bartender.
Yeah.
You don't need to tell me that she's a lesbian, and likewise, you don't need the bartender to tell me that she's into girls either. You could just have them interact.
Yeah, which they did.
Which they did eventually. So I never understood, like, why did you have to have that moment where you tell the audience, by the way, if you didn't understand it, I prefer the company of females. Like, okay,
but
thanks for that.
As if we couldn't figure that out by the fact that she left her ex-girlfriend at the very beginning of season 1.
Right. Yeah. We already knew this about her, and so they had to tell us the bartender was too. It's like, I don't know. And again, like I say, it's the tiniest bit of that entire season's story, which was focused on Wayne Williams and all that stuff, which was just nuts. But for some reason, that stuck with me more than anything else in the season, because I just thought, the excellence has taken a bit, and now there might not even be a season 3.
I know, and I'm like,
frustrating.
But I want to find out what happens to the little boy. And
the really great thing about season 1 and 2 is, the show in all, is the respect they gave to the serial killers. They didn't turn them into these comic book supervillains. And the portrayals by the actors were absolutely amazing. I mean, the guy who did Charlie Manson.
Oh, God, he was great.
He was as far as his physical presence and the way he just played out that character was spitting image.
Oh, yeah.
And just
his
about
voice, too.
Yeah, his voice, exactly. Everything about that. And that was probably that's the one thing that was necessary for that show to work, because if they had brought in actors or had portrayals done of just like these goofy monster of the week type characters, that show would not have worked. But the fact that they paid such respect to the reality of those people and how they actually behaved, and the physicality of them, the whole 9 yards, that made it feel very real, and that the show was not talking down to me as the audience.
Yeah. Especially the guy who took an interest in Holden. What was his name? The serial killer the necrophiliac serial killer.
Yeah. Of course, as soon as you say it, I'm like,
Boudreaux.
Oh, Boudreaux? I was
I
thinking
think.
of, yeah, because there's Jerry Boudreaux was one of them, and then no, who's the guy? I suddenly forget his name. The guy who killed his mother and cut off her head and all that stuff.
That guy.
Yeah, that guy
I can't remember what his name was. But
Ed Kemper. Ed Kemper.
Ed
Yeah,
Kemper.
Ed Kemper.
Yes.
Yes,
The actor who did Ed Kemper was phenomenal.
Yeah, and if you look at footage of real interviews with Kemper and then look at that guy, I mean, like I say, it was an amazing portrayal, and just the subdued way he behaved, which that's how Kemper was. It's like he was very quiet, he was very well mannered and intelligent, but also gigantic physically and scary as hell if you got alone in a room with him. So
I didn't like that they had Holden devolve into panic attacks that quickly. I would have liked that for season 3, maybe, because I'm like, dude, you've only been interviewing serial killers for a year, and you're going to pieces that fast.
Uh-oh, you're frozen on me. Uh-oh. I don't know if the feed...
I didn't like that writing.
Now the feed froze up on me with you for a second.
Shit.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I just that your image froze up and I didn't hear anything for a few seconds there, so I wasn't
sure. The descent into panic attacks for Holden, I thought that writing, I didn't like that. I thought that was too soon. Like, I could see it happening if you're a behavioral scientist and you're interviewing the dregs of society, right? I could see you having to deal with that. But after a year, like, really?
A
year or two?
I was wondering if... I when I saw that, I wasn't sure if that was too much too soon. I also didn't know if it was supposed to be... Like, this is so before he got involved in the behavioral science stuff and started actually interviewing the serial killers, which was a novel thing at the time. I wasn't sure if the panic attacks weren't a combination of both his having to deal with all this stuff, but also not having the outlet of the girlfriend that he had in season 1. That maybe because he was alone with his... Yeah, well, she screwed. Yeah, she was definitely not the hero in that situation, but all the same,
she wasn't.
His heartbreak, but also not having another voice there to sort of temper what was going on with him. I guess, like I said, I was trying to rationalize it on the show's behalf because they didn't really make it clear, like, why now all of a sudden of everything. And like I said, the only factor that was different substantively from the first season was that he didn't have that relationship going on at the same time he was doing that work.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure if, like I say, and if there was some indication in season 2 where they kind of alluded to maybe that's partly why. I don't remember it, but like I said, maybe I might be filling in for the show that it doesn't deserve to be.
Yeah. I hope there's a season 3. Because I really want to find out what happened with Holden's partner's little boy.
Yeah, Tench's kid and everything. Yeah, all that stuff was really bizarre. And I have no idea. Like, the characters are based on real people, obviously.
Yeah.
Or they're slightly amalgamations of people. I have no idea if that story is even remotely true about the kid, or if that is related somehow to one of the real people or some other investigator or something. So
there's apparently a book series. There's 2 Mindhunter series. Like, there's the Mindhunter where it's all like the actual cut and dry procedural stuff. And then there's the fictional Mindhunter that is what this is based on.
Right.
I would really like to read the Mindhunter books. I think there's some credits. I think there's still. I think I still have access to my half of the Audible credits. I may find those
Another
books
one
and
you
read
might
them.
look at that isn't direct. I mean, it's about one serial killer. It's The Hunt for the Green River Killer.
Oh,
This is a
okay.
book. This is a book I read, God, back in the '90s or something. It's been updated several times since the guy was caught. But as far as like a long-term murder investigation with all the ins and outs and the people who participated in it, some of the people that were represented in Mindhunter. I mean, at one point, they even went off to Ted Bundy to ask him for advice on how to find the guy
Oh,
and
wow.
so on. Yeah, The Hunt for the Green River Killer is probably one of the best comprehensive, like, serial killer hunt examination books ever written. It's probably only I think it's actually better than Zodiac by Robert Graysmith, which is still another one of my favorite serial killer sort of true crime books. I'm still not sure, for those of you that know anything about Zodiac, I'm still not completely convinced that Arthur Lee Allen is the Zodiac, as they keep telling us. But and the only other book that I'd recommend, if you can find a copy, because God knows it's probably difficult to find now, there's a serial killer, one of the various people who was given the title the I-5 killer because he operated going up and down I-5 in California.
Right.
His name was Randy Kraft, and the book is called Angel of Darkness. And Randy Kraft was also called the I think it's the scorecard killer, because when they finally caught him, he had this list of all these little notations on this legal pad that all seem to refer to various victims in some very abstract ways. And they haven't identified them all, so he's probably far more prolific than they're actually able to convict him of. But his story, his ability to operate in the world, his crimes, his victims, I mean, every serial killer's story is terrifying and horrible to one extent or another. The things he did and the way he was able to get away with them always struck me for some reason. Plus the way he was caught, just like so many. It wasn't because, the police identified him from evidence or something. He was pulled over for crossing the center line, and the guy in the passenger seat was a dead body.
Oh, God.
Because he was driving off to dump the body, basically, or do whatever he was going to do with it before dumping it. And he just happened to have got a traffic infraction at that moment. And if it hadn't been for that, God knows how much longer he would have gone on. He'd been going for like 13, 14 years at that point.
I think Nancy Pelosi is the Zodiac killer. Says Kept Talk.
Oh, man. Well, it's either Nancy Pelosi or Ted Cruz. At least Ted Cruz has kind of embraced that joke. And good on him for doing it. Because he just gets so much shit if he didn't. But yeah, no, the Zodiac Killer and the Black Dahlia and all these crazy, just yeah, I've always been fascinated by serial killers.
Moonbase Security says, while the crew has been released from their contracts, Netflix has not canceled season 3 so far.
Right? Yeah, they can't. I forget exactly what caused them to. Because I know the decision to not pursue season 3 right away happened before the pandemic, I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
But I can't remember exactly what it was. Because Netflix spends so much fucking money on garbage TV series and movies and Netflix originals and things and stuff that you've never heard of and you'll never see, but cater to a very specific demographic, I guess. And I just think, gosh, give me a budget. I'll do a Florida Man series for you. Give me a writer's room. Man, we'll do Florida Man, the series. We'll make a bundle for you, and it won't cost that much. I'd love it. I was just like, hey, Netflix, you're giving everybody and their brother a budget and a TV opportunity. Give me an 8-episode spread of Florida Man. I'll make an anthology series of just, it'll be sort of quasi Twilight Zone, quasi The Hitchhiker. It'll be great.
I'd watch that.
Oh man, I did a whole when I was doing ads for the show back then. Somebody
I remember that.
Somebody paid me to actually write up my Florida Man TV series, and so I wrote like 6-episode synopses of what I do for Florida Man. I still have them somewhere. I was like, I could do that. It'd be great.
Fury Kitten asks, are serial killers supervillains? No. No,
Super.
supervillains are first of all super, and they are they're evil, but they're silly evil. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
Like they're
well,
out of the they're outrageously evil.
here's the twist that you quite literally can't see. So cereal is spelled as the breakfast food,
Ah ha ha ha
and
ha.
super is spelled as soup.
Soup.
So are serial killers super villains? And the answer is no to both instances because cereal is not soup.
If
So
anything, cereal is a cold stew.
That was the argument that SDA made when we had that argument or had that conversation originally. I turned that bit into a promotional ad for Lords of the Night at one point to save it.
Yes, you did.
So, and it still makes me laugh every time I listen to it. It's just so ridiculous, and of course I make myself laugh because I just went over the top in my agony over them. And if you ever see that promo, it doesn't quite tell the story because I say like somewhere in there, like they start talking about it, and I put in a SpongeBob thing that says 1 eternity later because they went on like that for like 40 minutes before I started.
They really did.
It was just ridiculous. They wouldn't stop talking about it, and I was just like, oh.
The cereal is salad, says Moonbase Security.
There you go. That works too.
That's funny. So, music. What type of music do you like? I know you've commented on some of the stuff that I've shared on Twitter going, do you have my playlist or something like that? Like, because we seem to listen to the same types of stuff.
I mean, just like with so many other things, it runs the gamut. Like when I was getting into music when I was younger, like my very first CD was Porno for Pyros. So Perry Farrell's project off of Jane's Addiction, and I like Jane's Addiction too. And then Tool, like Undertow by Tool, yes. Which is awesome. And all my friends at the time who were, I think, still getting out of like the poppy 90s Backstreet Boys kind of stuff or New Kids on the Block thing. They're like, Tool, you listen to that industrial stuff? I'm like, yeah, man, it's cool. And because when I saw that first music video for Sober with the little crazy puppet man and everything, it just like struck a chord in me, and I was just like, yeah, that's my jam. Well, I didn't say it like that back then because I was a little nerdy kid. I mean, a lot of my music taste at that time really, I think, stood in contrast to my outward exterior because I was that, sort of shy kid, wearing the glasses. I didn't like wear leather and spike up my hair or anything. I looked pretty normal. But yeah, Tool, Alice in Chains, all that stuff. I was into a lot of the major grunge bands when I was growing up. I never did buy a single Nirvana album.
No,
because I thought that was because I didn't really need to because I heard that stuff all the time, so it really wasn't any reason to have to go buy it. Gosh, what else? Trying to think of albums I had. Machines of Loving Grace. I remember I had the really great album. Butterfly Wings is the song that's on there all the time. I also liked a lot of sort of classical-ish music, like the soundtrack to The Red Violin. I love that. There's some pop stuff. God, I have to go look at my shelf. I got a shelf full of CDs, which I never listen to anymore. But yeah, no, my likes have gone all over the place. There's all types of different genres and particular artists I like. There's only one country song ever worth listening to, though, and that's Thunder Rolls by Garth Brooks.
That's not a bad song.
It's not a bad song. It's even better if you find the version with the extra verse where she actually gets the gun and shoots the guy.
Yes.
That isn't on the studio version. You have to find one of those concert versions for that. But yeah, murder ballads and things like that. So yeah, I mean, all types of different music. I could go off on specific artists for a long time of all types of things.
Yeah, I've always been a big music person. I took piano lessons, I took vocal lessons. I I ran the gamut. I was into pop for a little bit, and I'll still admit to having um Aqua in my playlist,
Hey.
and and the first two albums of the Spice Girls I
Hmm.
love. Um I I you know, I listened when I was like 10 or 11 or 12. I had a Britney phase, and then I played CD or frisbees with her CDs until they broke, and that was fun.
Hmm.
Shattering CDs are dangerous.
Yeah. I thought of a song. Have you ever heard of the band Pendulum?
Yes.
Yeah, Pendulum Witchcraft. That song, I love that song. So if you anybody out there, if you never heard Pendulum, the band, look up the songs Witchcraft and Crush. And
Mm.
those two songs are my favorites of theirs. I don't know why I just thought of them, but that I just did.
You lost me at Spice Girls, says Skeptalk. Yeah, well,
Oh well.
we can't always agree on everything, Skep. Remember, I like Generations.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I've in my favorite in order. My TNG movies go First Contact, Insurrection, Generations, Nemesis.
I guess that sounds about right. I thought they were all so far outside of an actual Star Trek episode. It was just like
Yeah.
action movie, action movie, action movie. So I mean, they well, some more than others were entertaining, all of them to a certain extent. But yeah, Generations. I guess that was the closest they tried to bridge the gap with the TV show and action movie stuff. But the firing the missile at the sun and it's going to be there in 2 seconds, kind of that I never understood that. Why did you, of all the things you could do, you had to get Captain Kirk? Like, of all the people you could find in the Nexus to help you, if that really was the thing, why Captain Kirk? Why not just let him live his paradise life? Like, why specifically him? If the bad guy had been somebody that Kirk had faced before, right? If he had been like another Khan or something,
Yeah.
maybe that would make a little bit of sense. Or if Kirk possessed some special knowledge that was vital to this particular situation, then maybe that would make sense. But of all the people that Patrick or Picard could think of to bring back with him or anything, it's Kirk. So yeah, there were a lot of things about Generations that I just kind of went, I can't quite suspend my disbelief that far. But of course, at the time, I remember I watched the very first episode of Next Generation the night it aired. It was a big deal. I saw the very
Ah,
first episode.
Encounter
Yeah,
at Farpoint.
Counter at Farpoint, and it was so different but slightly familiar to what little I knew because I hadn't watched a lot of the original series when I was a kid,
Right.
but it was so different and interesting that I got hooked. Even with the bad special effects, even with the terrible episodes in the first season or two, like Code of Honor, that was like the total like racist African culture on a planet episode. And of course,
Oh God.
my favorite at the time because I was a little I was a growing boy, and so the part where Data ends up making out or
Banging Tasha Yar.
not banging Tasha Yar is like, oh yeah, Tasha Yar, and then the actress was in an episode of Red Shoe Diaries eventually, which is really exciting. You know about Red Shoe Diaries?
Yeah, I've heard of. I haven't seen it,
Oh,
but
oh
I've
man,
heard about it.
oh man, that's the first time I ever saw David Duchovny. David Duchovny was in Red Shoe Diaries. It's kind of like in the initial thing, he was the boyfriend or fiance of the main character, and then he became the narrator for the series. Zalman King's Red Shoe Diaries. That's soft core porn in the '90s for like horny teenagers like myself. It was great.
And she was so mean to Data at the end of that episode. It never happened. Like,
Right? Yeah.
dude,
It's like, well, Data
that's
doesn't
not
feel emotions.
nice.
Data doesn't feel emotions. It's fine.
I guess, but I don't know. I'm an oddball. I'd never liked Tasha Yar.
Well, I think she left the series far too soon to have as much development as some of the other characters did. So she didn't have a whole lot to. We weren't given as an audience a whole lot to work with by the time that she finally checked out.
The only thing that I liked was the only thing that got me was her goodbye.
Yeah.
That was well done. Um, but I never really got invested in her character. Like,
Yeah, they didn't give us much to work with. Not until like I guess later on when her Romulan daughter thing was all kind of like bizarre, and I don't remember all of that exactly. I did like seeing her come back for the one episode where
Yesterday's Enterprise.
Yesterday's Enterprise, yeah, where the Imperial version of Mirror Universe thing kind of popped up.
Pincalo says Denise Crosby didn't like Tasha Yar. That's why she quit. Yeah.
Yeah, all the behind the scenes stuff. So I don't know, but I mean, I wouldn't have had her if I'd been her. If I'd been a smarter version of her, I wouldn't have agreed to have her be killed off. Because at some point, if you change your mind, this is a franchise that, I mean, even then, I was like, if you get on Star Trek for like an episode, you could be doing the convention circuit the rest of your life practically with the fans that they were. So, and it kind of reminds me of with the situation supposedly going on right now with the Mandalorian, is that Pablo, I forget his last name all of a sudden, the guy who's in the suit. Apparently, he was arguing with everybody about not getting enough face time. He's wearing the mask all the time and the helmet. Nobody's seeing his face, and he's still trying to build his career. And I'm kind of like, dude, the guy who was in the suit for Darth Vader, whose face you never saw.
Yeah.
James Earl Jones, whose face you never saw. And then even the actor who actually played Darth Vader when they finally took off the mask. All those guys, they had nothing but adoration from the fans forever. You don't need to have your face out to get attention by the Star Wars community. They will revere you forever, especially if you're both the guy in the suit and the voice. You've got carte blanche. Now, look at Boba Fett. The guy in the suit and the guy who did the voice are two different people, but the guy in the suit, Jeremy Bulloch, he still gets, or if he's still alive, I don't even know. But anyway, he got praise forever. I was like, do you have any comprehension of what it is to be on a Star Wars show that's popular, especially like the first TV show ever, and you're like complaining to the staff that you're not getting enough face time? It's like, people know who you are, dude. They really do, because you're doing it and you're doing it well. You got nothing to complain about. But now they're going to do, apparently, he was complaining about, so he's not actually going to be in the suit for most of the time. It'll be some double, and he'll just do the voiceover work off the side, and they'll dub it in, and he'll go off and do other projects and have somebody else in the suit. And when I heard that, I was just thinking, the guy that they put in that suit is going to have as much cred with Star Wars fans as Pablo was doing the voice, because it doesn't really matter. So anyway, just reminded me of that all of a sudden. It's just like, man, you become part of these franchises, you do a decent job, you're never going to be without somewhere to go or a paycheck to pull.
Fury Kitten has a good point. He says she could have gone off to rescue her sister for a season. Yeah, she could have.
Yeah, exactly.
That would have been great.
It reminds me of the McLean Stevenson syndrome, as I call it. You ever hear of McLean Stevenson?
No, I haven't.
So he played, was it Burns or whatever on MASH?
Oh, okay. Frank Burns?
No, not Frank Burns. Sorry. God, the guy in the fishing hat. I suddenly forget the character's name. People in the chat will tell me before I can remember, because I have a terrible memory when it comes to this. Anyway,
in the fishing hat.
Yeah. So the first guy that ran the camp before Potter came in. And it's on the tip of my tongue. Somebody in the chat, tell me his name. Henry Blake.
Henry Blake.
Yeah, so Henry Blake. So McLean Stevenson played Henry Blake, leader of the MASH camp. And I think after the first 2 seasons or something it was, McLean Stevenson thought that he was bigger than the ensemble show that he was on. But he himself was too awesome to be contained on this ensemble show. So he told the writers, he said, write me out of the story, kill me off.
Right.
And so it's like, oh, Blake's going to go off and do this thing, and then his helicopter crashes and he's dead. Can't bring the character back. McLean Stevenson goes off to try to have a solo career. And for all intents and purposes, yeah, so like David Caruso after NYPD Blue, it's like, I'm bigger than this show. I'm going to go off and have this amazing career. And until he got like CSI Miami or whatever, he didn't really have much of a career. You get these overblown egos about your importance and your greatness in the grand scheme of things. and you can go off and get McLean-Stevenson syndrome,
Yeah.
where I'm so awesome, I'm just going to do my own thing, just kill off my character. So yeah, I don't know exactly what Denise Crosby's deal was, but yeah, like I say, you get involved in one of these like amazingly popular franchises or something. Don't have your character killed off. They go off on a vacation. They go off on a different mission or whatever. You know, like Dr. Crusher. She was just gone for a while. Pulaski
she went
was
to
there.
Starfleet Medical. Yeah.
She went to Starfleet Medical. Pulaski came in for a while, and then she came back. Never cut off your options. Never do that with something like this. If you can, if it's not already part of the story that your character dies or something. If it's you're electing to leave the show, leave it with your character still alive. Just do that.
I was so happy when Pulaski left.
I never, you know,
Oh.
for as fine an actress as she wasn't a bad actress.
No.
And her hair, her perm, always annoyed me. I was like, that is the ugliest. Even back in the '90s, when like hairstyles and things are different, she had this tight curled like perm thing, and it was just so distracting to me. And she looked so old in comparison to like her face was framed with this like tight little curls and everything, and I was just like. But yeah, I wasn't a big fan of Pulaski. I appreciated her for being there, and she wasn't a bad actress. It's fine. But yeah, Crusher was the one, the first, and really the only one that matters.
If I had a choice between who I would want to have my medical care, I would want Crusher. I wouldn't want Pulaski.
The dancing doctor, yes.
However, out of all of the Star Trek doctors, it would probably be McCoy that I would want as my doctor, or Doc.
Yeah, I like the emergency medical hologram. I liked emergency medical hologram. I thought he was the best. He was the most comedic of all of them and the most relatable in a lot of situations.
Pulaski would not get caught banging a space ghost. That's true.
Oh man, yeah, Crusher and
true.
Crusher and her candle.
Grandmother's candle.
Ghost. Grandmother's candle. It's like, oh, I basically got this very glorified dildo I can call up at any point. I mean, that's what it was. Let's be honest. Grandma had a glorified ghost dildo. And she could light the candle and bring him in anytime she wanted. And then Crusher inherited this. Oh, God. So what most bizarre, but I think, you ever watch Red Letter Media?
Yes. Pincala watches it all the time when I listen in.
Yeah. When Mike was talking about their favorite Star Trek episodes, I think he said that was like his favorite.
Yes, he did. And everyone was like, you're joking, right?
Yeah. Mike will do that. Furry Kitten says Julian Bashir. I like Bashir as a character.
I wouldn't want him as my doctor.
I wasn't ever really sold on him being a doctor. I don't know what it was. I don't think of him as being a doctor so much.
No.
Yeah. I mean, I like to say
Dr. Phlox from Enterprise. He was all right.
Yeah, I mean, they did a little twist on that character with making him more of a sort of like a space herbalist almost, because he was doing all these like holistic type methods and not straight science.
Yeah, he was like a mix between a scientific man and a homeopath.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would definitely, if I like the Voyager's EMH would, if you had something seriously wrong, he would probably be the one that would figure out how to fix it. Because he's done some pretty insane things, medically. So
yeah.
I think I would rather have Doc as my doctor if I had a choice. I'm sorry I cannot take my doctor seriously if his name is Bashir.
You know, it's so weird. I just remember this. The actor who played him, his name is Siddig El Fadil. And then somewhere like in the middle of the series, he changed his name to Alexander Siddig. And I noticed it so distinctly the first episode that the credits roll that says Alexander Siddig. And I'm like, who? And I was like, I found in some interview or something, he changed it because he thought people like didn't like that or couldn't take him seriously in that or didn't understand his name. I was like, dude, I loved your name. What the hell, Alex? Whatever. So you changed to some weird stage name.
Ah, but functional, remember, it didn't actually work. It didn't actually happen.
I thought they were married for a while, him and Nana Visitor.
No, the functional said that remember Julian with Bashir was more accomplished. Don't forget, Zimmerman wanted
Oh,
to replace EMH with Bashir, but he
okay.
did, but it didn't work. It didn't happen.
I thought you were referring to what Functional just said and said Citadel Fidel was banging Nana Visitor for most of the
He
show.
was, yeah,
Yeah. I think they were married. Didn't they have a kid together? I
yeah, they
thought.
did. That's why when she was pregnant,
Yeah.
they wrote in that there was some sort of like accident, like this, and they had and she had to carry Keiko's
Right.
baby.
Right. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
So yeah, they did like some sort of fetal transport into Kira.
Which is, yeah. I mean, credit where credit's due. They came with some interesting ways to keep the actor on set, even during the pregnancy.
Yeah. That was a weird bit of the series, though.
Yeah.
I mean, overall, I liked Deep Space Nine, but I didn't really like that little part of the story.
I like Deep Space Nine because it took a different perspective on the Star Trek universe that wasn't
Yes.
as happy go lucky, so to speak, sort of like a positive or hopeful. It's kind of like what I'm glad they're starting to do with Star Wars in really mining the criminal element, the underworld, the less non-force aspects of the universe that's been built up over time, like with the Mandalorian. That makes it more relatable. Doesn't make it nearly as sort of like fantastical.
Yeah.
And of course, the best expression of that in Deep Space Nine was when Cisco like basically gets good with assassination for political advancement.
Yeah.
That was like, I think that was my favorite episode ever of anything dealing with Cisco. Is just that I am now so morally gray that I can't tell which direction is the light again, but I'll just deal with it because it's necessary. I like that.
Yeah. Like the. Are you talking about in the Pale Moonlight where he it's basically a log entry episode,
Yep, that's the
and
one.
he's all, and then at the end he's like, I can live with that. Computer delete log.
Yep. Yeah, yeah, exactly. That was great. I was like, yeah, now that's what really set him apart from every other captain
Yeah.
in the chronology. I mean, he was a war captain. You
Yes.
know, he really was he was like he's at the front lines of a war, and he has to make decisions in wartime that go beyond your normal morality for the necessity of victory, or at least a more victorious situation than you would have otherwise. So that's why I like Deep Space Nine. I still think Picard. It. I'm not a super duper fan of the original series, not in the sense that I hate it or something. I just
Yeah.
haven't seen much of it as much as some other people. So Picard was sort of my first real Star Trek captain, so I always
Same.
have a liking for him. I am absolutely terrified by what they've done to him in the Picard series, which I haven't watched, but I've seen the rundowns by people who do care about the stuff and are willing to pay for it. And I just like, yeah,
It
that
was
sucks.
it I wanted to like it so badly.
I know,
I
I know. A lot of
really did.
people did.
I watched the whole season with Irate Prostate and Hammer and Skep Talk, and we covered it on the Star Trek stream, and it had moments,
Sure.
and then it had really giant canonical whole, like, pretend this never happened in canon and the story makes sense. Right, like
Well, you have to look at it as fan fiction or multi-universe stuff or something, just to sort of mentally separate yourself from how either bad it is or just how much of a different take on the character it is from the original.
yeah.
Um, and the whole licensing nonsense with Star Trek and Viacom is a whole documentary unto itself, which I've seen a couple of times now, and just Yeah, so I don't know. All these revival series they're doing lately,
Yeah.
it feels like such a cash grab and just like, oh, I could go on forever about what they've done, ruined Star Trek for me, Star Wars for me, just wah.
Well, we've come to an hour and a half,
Mm-hmm.
and so we're going to wrap things up.
Alrighty.
I'd like to thank you for joining me today. It's been a great conversation.
Thank you for having me on. I enjoyed myself.
I'm glad you did. And tonight is Lords of the Night on your channel?
Yes, so over on Scribe Light, you can find at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, Lords of the Night with me, Satsu 2 Cents, and the Ranting Monkey, where we will talk about the news of the day, news stories that our audience sends us, what we've been up to on the intertubes for the day, and then questions and comments from the audience. And then tomorrow, Saturday, I tentatively have plans to do another TED Excellence stream where I'll take a look at some J-random TEDx presentation and see if I can glean something useful from it, or at least have some fun in listening to it.
Oh, sounds good. And you can find me tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central back here with Skep Talk, Irate Prostate, and the One Ton Hammer. We will be breaking down the main characters, the bridge crew, basically, of each series.
Oh
We're going
boy.
to start with Captain Archer tomorrow.
Aha!
And so that will be interesting. Of course, there's the Blind and the Special on Sunday with Pincalo at 10 p.m. Eastern. I may stream some Mortal Kombat later if I don't go to the Dinosaur Museum with Pincalo and the boys. So keep an eye on that. And, of course, there is blindpress.net, where you can find all of the Blind Press merch and some of Pincalo's awesome nature pictures that you can hang on your wall.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Be sure to catch Scribe on Lords of the Night tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you all for watching. Have a great and safe weekend.
Bye, everybody.